What's that Greenwood song? Proud to be an American.
Song of the day. Song of the day.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Hey, Paul. We just got back from a trip to Italy. We were on a lickety-split trip. We went to Rome. We went to Matera, Montone, and came back in
Rome.
4 days.
Yeah.
Are we crazy?
Yes, we are. I wouldn't recommend that you take that little amount of time and go do a round-the-world trip.
So on my travels, I have time to think. That's very dangerous. And so what I came up with this week's Weekly Travel Alert are Steve's list of 11 European habits Americans could learn from.
I think this is one, it's intriguing because, a lot of people hear how different we are in America with so many different things. But when you actually spend so much time there, you recognize in person how different the livelihoods are of people in most of the rest of the world compared to how we operate here in the States.
Absolutely. And then I'm following it up at the tail end of this program with, here's my list of 11 American habits Europeans could learn from.
All right, so we got some contrast.
We got a contrast.
Okay.
You ready to go?
Let's do it.
Number one, a more relaxed pace of life. It seems like the Europeans have prioritized quality of life over quantity of life. Simple seems to win out.
It is, and it's like they stop and smell the roses. I think that's one of the things that we as Americans often, we're so go, obtain, push, that we don't recognize the great blessings and things that we actually are oftentimes overlooking because there's always so much drive for more.
And they don't have things that we don't think of. Most of them don't have microwaves. Some of them don't even have dryers.
Yeah.
So those types of things that people here couldn't live without. Number two on this week's list of the 11 European habits Americans could learn from. Number two, stronger work-life balance. This is basically, they have laws and cultural norms that encourage a balanced approach. They take a siesta. They're open till noon and then open back up at 3.
They're there, but don't expect to find anything between the hours of 1 and 3.
It's hard to get much work done when the banks are all closed and everything. So it's that balance in life, and Americans probably wouldn't put up with it, but over there, that's the way they do it. Number three, a greater appreciation for public transportation. I mean, when you go there, you're looking at trains, right? You're looking at all these public transit, a lot of walking.
Walking, busing, biking.
Biking,
biking
that's your whiz, biking, right?
Yeah, it's one of those where, we have to be in total control and get from A to B as fast as possible. Well, a lot of this over in Italy, it's trains. I was even looking the last trip because I flew in a day later than everybody else. Is there a way that I could catch up with them without having to rent a car? And there was. But it would have taken 4 hours and 2 changes of trains and all this stuff that I just didn't have the patience for. So I ended up renting the car.
You're an American. Hey, we're looking at the 11 European habits Americans could learn from. Number 4, this one I like, more frequent vacations. And if you think about it, I heard that like a large percentage, like a third of Americans never even use their paid time off.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, we're Europeans, our partner that we met over here on this last trip, he knew we were going to have meetings on Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, he took the weekend before, took his wife down, and they made a weekend out of it. So, I think that's one of those things that for both the balance, but also for family and building those memories, because there's so much of that comes from that getting away from home. You're making memories every time you go do something, and that's something we could definitely all improve upon.
Number 5 is a focus on sustainability. Americans talk about sustainability. Europeans do it.
They do it, yep.
So these are the 11 European habits Americans could learn from, ladies and gentlemen. Number 6 is a stronger sense of community. These are still small towns. Even the big cities, they have neighborhoods. I know in the U.S. and even in Lincoln, Nebraska, I probably don't know the neighbors that
yeah.
are a half block away.
Yeah, I've had neighbors for 15 years that I have probably talked to twice.
I mean, that's sad.
That's when
probably
that's
for
when you're
both of
chasing
us.
your dog down.
Yeah. Number 7 on this week's list of the top 11 European habits Americans can learn from, and we kind of got this feeling when we came back from Italy past week, is a more casual approach to dining. Mm-hmm. In America, you eat, even when you dine in, you're spending 45 minutes. Yeah. In Europe, you're spending 4 hours. Yeah. I mean, here's the way you can tell. In Europe, a waitress or wait staff will never ask you if you would like your ticket.
They're never going to come put it on the table. Yeah. They're going to wait for you to ask or signal for it, just to make sure that you are complete with what you want your experience to be versus them trying to get a table turned.
And I think the restaurateurs in America try to turn that table 3 times. There, they understand you're going to be there, but they're probably going to get auxiliary sales with drinks and snacks and all that stuff. So
everything's multi-course. There is no 1-course meal when you're traveling in Europe.
Yeah, and actually you probably digest it better because you're slower pace.
If you're fuller, then maybe you don't eat so much. But there's definitely food is a driver.
Number 8 on things that Americans could learn from Europeans is a greater respect for history and culture. Europeans have a deep appreciation for history. You know, when they're talking, Americans think an antique is 50 years old. They think it's 200 or 300 or 400 years old. Yeah. And so there's a completely different perspective on history. They appreciate the small things. They will never cover up a fresco in the ceiling or throw away an old chair just because it doesn't fit the decor. They would keep that old chair because of its history.
There's an appreciation definitely at a different level.
Number 9 is a greater emphasis on walking and cycling. They walk everywhere.
You can't drive in a lot of places.
Yeah, they're skinnier too.
They are skinnier, yes they are. But,
okay.
You get in, especially in the rural communities, and you can't drive in a lot of these places. So the only way to go explore is to walk, but that also is part of stopping and smelling the roses. Yeah. When you're walking, you have time to take things in. So I think it all kind of ties together at a certain level.
This is going to blow you away, ladies and gentlemen. They have McDonald's in Europe that don't have a drive-through window. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a McDonald's in the United States
that's not on an airport.
That's not in an airport that doesn't have a drive-through. And I would guess that probably 80% or 90% of all the revenue at a McDonald's comes through the drive-in window. Mm-hmm. So they don't have that in Europe, generally speaking. Number 10 on this week's list of the top 11 European habits Americans could learn from reads cafe culture. France, Italy, it's leisure cafe culture. I know #Snurley just loves that. He loves to grab his little latte.
Sit and take it in.
And watch all the people. It's literally just...
watch time go by.
Watch people, time, dogs.
And the community. It goes back to the community. I think especially like in Montone, you see, the town come to life.
Yeah.
And you can sit there for a couple hours with your latte and your croissant and just watch how these people, how their life is so different. Well, that'd be the afternoon. I was talking about what we're doing in the morning.
Hey, speaking of Montone, Italy, and Umbria, you ought to go visit our website, villadestinoitaly.com. You'll see a cool villa that we have a lot of people stay at. Number 11 on this week's list of 11 items that Americans could learn from Europeans reads siesta or long lunch breaks. They basically, they go from usually 9 to 1, 3 to 4 or 5. Okay. And so they're basically doing about a 6-hour day, where we're always doing 8, 9, or 10 hours. They take a rest in there. Yeah. So that's kind of probably a Spanish cultural time.
In Italy, very much so.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So those are the 11 items. Now, Paul, we're going to go to flip the other switch.
All right.
We're going to go to, here's my list of 11 American habits Europeans could learn from. By the way, I'm proud to be an American. What's that Greenwood song? I'm proud to be an American. Or at least
Song of the day.
Okay, number 1, a strong work ethic. Americans basically are often praised for their dedication to work. We put our nose to the grindstone.
Get things done.
And we work and we're proud of it, right? Number 2, a focus on innovation. Look around the world. Where does innovation happen? The good old U.S. the Bay, right here. Now, China copies it all.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay? But if you look at Silicon Valley, you look at all the dot-coms, you look at AI, you look at all the new innovation, it happens. It's generated in the U.S. because we have capital, we have risk takers.
Progressive outlook.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what we've got is you've got the people that want to push us forward, want to advance. And that's what, when we're always looking forward, because we're always shooting for more, you know, you're not distracted by the past. So I think that probably counters a lot of what we talked about regarding what Americans could benefit from taking in from the European lifestyle. But no, definitely is something. And I think it's also because we don't have so much in the rear view, we are looking at how do we move faster.
Yeah, we're not held back by our history.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes your culture and history hold you back. And so because we don't have much.
We're reflective. We're progressive instead of reflective.
Yeah.
But we lose our culture that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the problem.
That's a loss.
They are so focused on that culture.
Number 3, a can-do attitude. Americans are the most positive. You know, I always tell people they could see a pile of manure over there and they're not worried about the manure. They're looking for the pony.
Yeah.
You know, so they are optimistic, and sometimes the Europeans are a little bit on the pessimistic side. Number 4, a culture of entrepreneurship. You know, Americans love to start new businesses. They're not worried about failure. They're saying, I'm going to give it a whirl.
Now, we've met some entrepreneurs over there,
yeah,
but that's not the standard.
Yeah, that's the exception.
That is, and there are some very entrepreneurial people, and we've got partners that are of that mindset over there. But yeah, that is definitely not the standard.
I had number 5, a diverse society. I mean, if you look at our society, they're from everywhere in the world, every culture. I mean, even here in good old Nebraska, we've got the Czech community, the German community, the Russian community. We've got them from everywhere in the world.
Lots of Asia.
And it's so fun because their culture, they bring all those nuances, which is kind of cool. Their food, their activities, their festivals, all the things that add the richness of a culture. Number 6 is a strong belief in individual freedom. Americans value individual liberty and the right to pursue their own goals. We put individual freedom above government control. Quite frankly, Europeans basically, they think, well, we got a problem. What's the government going to do? We
got to go to the government for guidance on how we have to deal with that. And that's very frustrating when you are progressive and entrepreneurial. You just want to fix a problem and move on to the next one. And that's not allowable over there. Everything has to be reviewed and signed off, and it makes it very difficult to do business, which then that's one of the reasons why they don't have so much for entrepreneurship.
I'm not going to mention the country, but I had a friend that I saw this graffiti on the walls, and I said, why don't you just take a can of paint and paint it? And they said, well, the government won't let us do that. And I'm thinking, whoa.
Yeah, they don't have the ability to ask for forgiveness. They have to get permission rather than just do it and ask for forgiveness.
Hey, number 7 on my list of American cultural and habits that Europeans could learn from, and this may not be so much different, a passion for sports. Have you noticed how our economy is now all sports, 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 and then sports? Yeah. Everything is sports. Of course, if you get into Europe, it's soccer. Here it's football, basketball, tennis.
But what you find in a lot of Europe, they follow American sports.
Yeah.
I was amazed a couple of years ago when we went to Ireland for a football game. There was American football being played in Ireland. You know, a good majority of the people at the game were Irish, yet they all had American football jerseys on. Now, we were there for a college football game. All the jerseys they were wearing were professional jerseys, so they don't understand the differences of levels and things like that, but they do follow American sports.
Number 8 on my list of American culture that Europeans could learn from is a focus on higher education. If you look around it, all around the world wants to come to the U.S. for higher education. They know we have one of the higher standards, and so they want to send their kids here and get them educated. So that it seems like that we have a world focus on education that is respected around the world. Number 9 is a culture of philanthropy. I never thought about this as much as I did recently, but we're used to starting nonprofits. I mean, we raised $1 million, Executive Travel did, to help the people in Ukraine.
That were displaced.
In Poland.
Yep.
People don't even think like that in Europe. They think, well, let the government do it. And we think, how can we pool our money to help other people that have a need?
I think that goes back to we are solutions driven.
Yeah,
so
great point. Number 10 on the list of 11 things that Americans do that Europeans can learn from, a love of adventure, man. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but we want to take to the open road, don't we? Hashtag. He's Mr. Camper.
I think, yeah, we just, we're used to just going for something and seeing how it works out. And with technology and things today, it makes it so much easier. I think about if we were doing a lot of the things we're doing here recently, but doing it 10 to 20 years ago before you had Google Translate and technologies that would translate documents and things like that, it'd be so much more difficult. We're just blessed to live in a time where technology makes it so that, even things that historically would have been a burden or a challenge, you can get over those hurdles.
Number 11, this is my last one on things that Americans do that Europeans could learn from. And this is kind of my philosophy right here. Understanding that failure is simply just one step closer to success. Okay. Americans are willing to accept failure as long as the failure is falling forward.
Falling forward.
Right. Yep, and they go, hey, I failed, but I tried. And think about it. Most people that don't fail never try.
They didn't try hard enough.
And so I always tell people, I want a government that gives me the freedom to fail. Because if I don't have that, I don't have the freedom to succeed. Yeah. So with that, that's my list of the top 11 things that Europeans do I'm kind of jealous of, and the top 11 things that Americans do that I think some of the Europeans wish they had that secret sauce.
Yep, definitely.
Thanks for joining us today on the Weekly Traveler. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn. Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback below on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.